What's going on, everyone? You are here for another Thursday night fantasy preview with Dr. Fantasy. We have a real stinker tonight that I'm looking forward to going through with you guys. The Bengals and Browns, an in-division battle, 8:20 tonight. So want to go through and break down the fantasy impact of this game for you. Before I do that, I do want to have our quick PSA to never flex players on a Thursday night. It's a pretty normal strategy. If you do flex a player that plays on Thursday night, it leaves your lineup with a lot less flexibility for the remainder of the week. Reason being, if an injury pops up and you need to swap your roster around later in the week, your flex is locked. Usually, if you had that flex open, you'd be able to move your flex player into your wide receiver running back spot and then move someone else into the flex. But if your flex is already locked, you don't have that flexibility to do that. So, never flex a player that plays on Thursday night. I'm not going to tell you to never play a player that plays on Thursday night. We've seen some big games. There's some juicy matchups sometimes, so I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory. But let's break it down. One note on this game, injury-wise, Jarvis Landry is questionable with a hip injury. Doesn't look like anything serious. He's been a limited participant in practice all week, so looks like he's going to be a full go. But let's go position by position here. That's how I did it last week. That's probably going to be the flow for me. So I'll start off with the quarterbacks in this matchup. The rookie number one overall pick, Joe Burrow, going up against the Browns. The Browns are actually pretty solid against quarterbacks last season. Only gave up the 20th most points to opposing fantasy QBs, so actually a pretty challenging matchup. I think a lot of people are overreacting to how bad they looked against the Ravens last week. I mean, the Ravens are one of the best teams in the league. That's a reality, and I think maybe we forgot that over this offseason, but I don't think the Browns are quite as bad as they showed last week. I don't buy into Browns hype, but they're not that bad. They're more of a 6 and 10, 7 and 9 team. I don't think they're one of the worst teams in the league, so I expect them to come out a lot better in this one against a very young Bengals team. So with that, I'm not really playing Joe Burrow this week. I do like a few of his pass catchers, but the Browns with Myles Garrett, I expect him to go and attack the quarterback tonight. The Browns have Denzel Ward, who is one of the top 15 corners in football, I would say. So, pretty solid there. And just around the board, they're a solid defense. Or, like I said, they're not as bad as they were last week. I don't trust rookie quarterbacks. Rookie quarterbacks are historically very, very inconsistent. If there's a matchup where you want to throw Joe Burrow in for a 1 QB league, this is probably the week to do it. But there's better streamers out there. If you really need to stream your QB week 2, I'd rather have Jimmy G against the Jets. I'd rather have Mitch Trubisky against the Giants. I steer away from rookie QBs. I think that the game plan right now is going to be shut down Joe Mixon, let Joe Burrow prove to us that he belongs. So Joe Burrow may have some opportunities to hit some receivers that are open, but I don't trust the inconsistency, especially this early in the season. For Baker Mayfield, he needs to be better. I expect this Browns game plan to be a lot different this week. He passed the ball 39 times last week, and the reality is they're not going to win many games with that happening. This is a team that's built for the run. They actually have a really good offensive line. On paper, this is a top 5 offensive line. So this offensive line needs to come through. A lot of strong run blockers along that offensive line. So I think it's going to be a ground and pound game for the Browns tonight. So not a lot of action for Baker. The Bengals secondary isn't great. They gave up the 10th most points to QBs last year, and I don't think they're overly much improved compared to last year. So Baker may have an opportunity, but for me personally, based on what I expect the game script to be, I think it may be just a matter of volume for Baker. So I don't see him having a 35, 40 pass attempt game, which kind of limits his fantasy upside a bit. So I'm not overly high on him this week, but he does have a lot to prove. On the running back side, I already mentioned Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt must starts for me this week. The Bengals allowed the most fantasy points to opposing rushers last year. Not to mention, Geno Atkins is out right now. That's huge. That's their best defensive player on the defensive line. So this Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt with that offensive line should have opportunities to eat. And like I said, if the Browns want to win, that's got to be their style. Ground and pound and play better defense. That's the formula for the Browns winning a few games this year. So those are two must starts for me. On the Bengals side, Joe Mixon, hard to bench him at this point. No reason to bench him. A big part of the Bengals offensive game needs to be pounding the ball and then opening up the play action for their young rookie quarterback. So Joe Mixon on volume alone is going to be a guy you really never ever bench. I mean, he'll still consistently get you 20 touches, give or take, every single week. So you really can't bench that kind of volume. The Browns gave up the eighth most fantasy points to running backs last year, so it is a pretty favorable matchup for him as well. So three must-play running backs for me this week. On the wide receiver side, things start to get a little more interesting. I think AJ Green has a little bit of an opportunity. We saw the Browns secondary last week get burned by Hollywood quite a few times, so I think they may struggle against wide receivers who thrive downfield, which is something AJ Green definitely does. So I think AJ Green has a little bit of an opportunity. He's not a must start for me just because of the rookie quarterback situation, but I do think the Browns pass defense could be a little vulnerable with AJ Green's skill set. Um, Tyler Boyd, I also think will have an opportunity. I think he's a safe option week in and week out. Don't think his upside is tremendous, but the or the Browns really don't have a solid slot corner at this point, so I think Tyler Boyd out of the slot will have some opportunities. Once again, do I expect him to have a huge game? No, but he's the kind of guy where even in a tough matchup, he'll get you 5 and 50. So if you're looking for consistency without the upside, Tyler Boyd's your man. It definitely depends on how your lineup is constructed. If you have lots of safe options and you need to take a chance, AJ Green would be my play over Tyler Boyd, but if you're looking for just some consistent points, I think Tyler Boyd's a little safer this week. On the Browns side, Odell Beckham has a lot to prove this week, and this is another situation where Odell Beckham has the upside. I don't see any corner that the Bengals have that can defend Odell Beckham, but he's all over the place. This entire passing game's all over the place. One of the reasons I'm trying to bench Baker, if I could bench Odell, I'd Beckham, but I think that's easier said than done. But he does have upside just based on his talent. This is a really nice matchup for him, and he should take advantage. So if you're still a believer, you still believe in the upside, you can take the chance. I think Landry could have a tougher go at it than people think tonight. The Bengals actually have a pretty solid slot corner, Mackenzie Alexander. Not really a big name, but he's very solid in the slot. So Landry is similar to Tyler Boyd, just a consistent producer. If you're looking for that 10 to 15 point upside, I'll say 15 point upside. Landry's probably not your guy this week, but he's always good for a solid 10. Odell Beckham has the upside, but with that upside also comes a lot of bust potential. So it really depends on how much risk you want to take on. On the tight end side of things, Browns were very vulnerable against tight ends last year. May open up some opportunities for CJ Uzomah. Once again, it's a matter of me to where is he in the pecking order of this passing game? Fourth, fifth? I don't tend to trust the fourth or fifth option in a passing game unless they're very high volume and a passing game that I can trust. So Uzomah, will he have an opportunity against a vulnerable linebacking core of the Browns? Yeah, definitely, but he's not a guy that I would trust to be in my starting lineup. Austin Hooper for the Browns is a very interesting name for me personally. With David Njoku going down, Hooper is the number one tight end there. They have the rookie Bryant, but Austin Hooper has a chance to get targets. But once again, if he's the third option in this passing game right now that's really struggling, I don't know if I can trust him yet. I think he'll have big days. There's better days to come. The linebacking core that will be covering him for the Bengals is very young, so there once again may be some opportunities there, but I think this is a really deep tight end class, so I think there's better options out there for you. On the kicking side of things, I don't expect this to be a very high scoring game. Like I said, I think the Browns are going to focus on controlling the clock and grounding and pounding the ball, so not starting Austin Seibert. Randy Bullock's been on the injury report for the Bengals, but once again, how high-powered is this offense going to be? for the team defenses. Not trusting this young Bengals defense even against a struggling Browns offense. If I had to pick one, I'm going with the Browns just because Joe Burrow, he's a rookie quarterback. He's going to make mistakes. It's going to happen, but I don't have enough faith in the Browns to be starting them. I think Joe Burrow could be a favorable matchup throughout the season, but I don't have enough faith that they're going to be a consistent producer for you. I'd rather stream the Cardinals against Washington personally this week, or you can take a look at other options on your waiver wire. So I think that's all that I have for this Thursday game. We'll be posting the other games later in the week, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever floats your boat. Make sure you subscribe. You'll get a notification anytime this great content comes out. So I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see everybody next time.